When a firm makes a decision, this decision is going to apply over a certain period of time. So the costs need to be measured over the relevant period of time. So there's two problems that we face in measuring the costs in this way, especially when we're talking about durable goods, in other words, capital. First is, how do you spread the cost of capital over the time frame that the capital is used? Second, how do you deal with the changes in the value of the capital over that time period? So let's look at an example. So let's suppose you needed a pickup truck, and this pickup truck would cost either $20,000 to buy, or you could rent it for $400 a month. You might ask yourself, if you're making a decision as a firm, what is the monthly cost of using this pickup truck? Well, if you rent it, it's obvious, right? It's just $400 a month. If the rental rate changes over time, well, the cost changes over time. And the opportunity cost of this truck is just whatever you pay to rent it, because you could use those $400 for something else. So in the case of renting the truck, it's obvious. What if you buy it? Things get a little more complicated. You could say, well, look, I paid $20,000 up front, and so the first month it cost me $20,000, and then after that, it's free. But does that make sense? No, that doesn't actually make any sense, because after you've bought it, you could start renting it out to somebody rather than using it yourself, for example. So even though you own it, there's an opportunity cost of $400 a month, because the going rate for rental of a pickup truck is $400 a month. In other words, even if you buy the truck, the opportunity cost is going to still give you a monthly cost of $400 for using the truck. Now let's look at this example from a different time horizon. So let's suppose we look at it over the period of a year. So let's suppose you sell the car after the first year of using it, and you sell it for $17,000. Now, you might ask yourself, what's the opportunity cost of the truck? Was it simply what you lost on the truck, the depreciation of it? Right? So you paid $20,000, you sold it for $17,000. So did it just cost you $3,000 to use a truck? Not quite, because you still have to think about what you might have done with those $20,000 in the meanwhile. So let's suppose you could have put that $20,000 in the bank and got 5% return on it. If so, after the year, your $20,000 would have been $21,000. So your true cost, so it's going to have to include the opportunity cost. When you put that $20,000 into the pickup truck, by having it tied up in the pickup truck, you've foregone $1,000 of return on investing that $20,000. So you have an opportunity cost of $1,000, plus you've got the $3,000 of explicit cost. In total, you face a $4,000 cost. Let's look at yet another example. Let's suppose you're a firm and you own an office building. And we want to know what's your cost of using the office space that you use. What's the monthly cost of this office space? Well, it's not zero just because you own it. The relevant cost here is going to be, what's the amount of rent you could have charged if you had rented this space out to someone else? So let's say the going rate right now is $10,000 a month. Let's say nearby comparable properties are renting for $10,000 a month, then the economic cost really is $10,000 a month. It's not zero, even though you own the place. Right, so the accounting cost is zero. But the opportunity cost, which you could have made $10,000 by renting it out, is $10,000. So your total cost is $10,000. Now, if the going rate goes up, let's say the real estate market is very hot and the nearby office, similar properties start renting for higher, let's say $15,000, well then your cost is also rising to $15,000. So when economists talk about costs, we are including all of these things. We're talking about all of your opportunity costs as well. And one of the most important opportunity costs is time, and that's something that should always be factored in when making a business decision.